Hello and welcome to the very first episode of this brand new series on the Ultimate Enlightenment channel. Today, we want to enlighten you on what all the sacred books really meant by the concept of the afterlife. We will show you that true life is much more than just being able to breathe and maintain a heartbeat. The afterlife the ancient texts speak of is not what happens when your physical heart stops beating. Instead, it describes what happens to your life when it enters a completely different state of consciousness. To understand this, we must look closer at the clues hidden right inside the scriptures. If you study the deeper esoteric layers of the Bible, it does not just talk about dying once. It explicitly speaks of a first death, a second death, and even a third death. If death only meant biological expiration, dying 3 times would be an absolute impossibility. Furthermore, we must re-examine the true meaning of the resurrection of the dead. In the book of John, Jesus made a startling, time-bending claim. He did not say the dead would rise in some distant, apocalyptic future. He declared that now is the time the dead will rise from their graves. Think about the power behind that phrase, now is. He was speaking to living, breathing people, yet he referred to them as the dead, telling them that their resurrection happens in the present moment. Through this lens, the grave is not 6 feet under the dirt. The grave is the dense, material state of lower human consciousness. Interestingly, the book of Isaiah originally laid the groundwork for this very concept of the walking dead. Hollywood later took this profound spiritual warning and expanded it into the modern horror movies we know today, the concept of zombies. When you look at cinematic zombies, you are actually looking at a perfect physical allegory for a spiritually dead person. First, Hollywood zombies always walk in large, mindless flocks just like sheep. They have completely surrendered their individuality to follow the crowd, moving together without any divine direction. Second, these creatures constantly open their mouths to groan. They make a lot of noise, which perfectly mirrors people who speak endlessly but ultimately say nothing, uttering only dead words that lack spirit, truth, or true life. Third, zombies exclusively hunt and eat other living beings. They never eat other zombies. This directly explains why Jesus pointed to the dead standing inside the temple and told them they must eat his flesh to have eternal life. Spiritually dead people cannot sustain themselves, so they seek to drain, suck, and feed on the life force and energy of the chosen living ones. Fourth, science fiction often shows that a zombie only utilizes about 5% of its brain capacity, representing absolute zero mental or spiritual activity. How does a person become a spiritual zombie? Just like in the movies, you get infected with the virus simply by associating with other zombies. Hanging around those trapped in lower frequencies slowly drains your consciousness until you become just like them. To rise from this grave means to finally wake up to your true divine nature while you are still alive. This brings us to the ultimate secret of heaven and hell and what it truly means to be born again. Every major mystical tradition maps out a ladder of human consciousness. In Eastern traditions, we call these energy centers the chakras. In the Western biblical tradition, Isaiah maps them out as the 7 spirits of God. An extraordinary transformation happens when you reach the number 4. This exact paradigm of spiritual deadness versus cosmic life is woven perfectly into the ancient Egyptian mysteries as well. We often look at the Egyptian Book of the Dead as a text about literal funerals, but its actual, original title is the Chapters of Coming Forth by Day. It was not a book about rotting in a tomb. It was a practical manual for a living mind to conquer its own internal darkness. To the Egyptians, a dead person wasn't someone whose body had expired. A dead person was anyone walking around whose higher spiritual faculties were shut off. They believed a fully conscious human being was made of multiple layers, including the Ka, which is your vital energy or life force, and the Ba, which is your unique spiritual intelligence and soul power. If you were trapped purely in the physical, ego-driven world, your Ba was considered caged, unable to take flight. You were considered a walking corpse because you were blind to the hidden, divine architecture of the cosmos. In this state of spiritual deadness, the Egyptians warned that you risked facing the ultimate spiritual tragedy, the second death. In their texts, the second death meant the total, permanent extinction of your consciousness and your name, where your lower ego self is entirely consumed by the monster Amit during the weighing of the heart. The ultimate goal of the Egyptian texts was to give you the secret codes to unlock your inner divinity, merge your Ka and Ba, and step out of the dark, zombie-like underworld of human ignorance into the vibrant, eternal light of higher consciousness. This brings us to the ultimate secret of heaven and hell and what it truly means to be born again. Every major mystical tradition maps out a ladder of human consciousness. In Eastern traditions, we call these energy centers the chakras. In the Western biblical tradition, Isaiah maps them out as the seven spirits of God. An extraordinary transformation happens when you reach the number 4. The first 3 levels of consciousness are entirely focused on physical survival, primal emotions, and raw ego power. Most of humanity leaves and dies trapped entirely within these lower 3 centers. However, when you are born again, which is a profound spiritual breakthrough, you transcend this barrier and attain eternal life. In the biblical tradition, this breakthrough is the unlocking of the 4th spirit of God, which is the spirit of counsel. In the energetic chakra system, this corresponds exactly to the activation of the 4th chakra, the heart center. This center acts as the bridge. It is the precise moment your awareness shifts from the earthly, ego-driven self into the higher, spiritual self. Heaven is not a distant geographic location you travel to after your body passes away. Heaven is a literal state of mind. It is a frequency of absolute peace, wisdom, and alignment that you access when you unlock that 4th layer of your spirit. The afterlife is waiting for you right now, not at the end of your biological years. It is an invitation to step out of the grave of lower consciousness, escape the zombie virus of the world, and claim a higher state of existence today. Throughout this new series, we will continue to decode these ancient secrets and guide you on the path to true awakening.